Hey, everybody, this is James Pelton. I hope you had a wonderful Easter weekend. I took Friday, Saturday, Sunday pretty much completely off. And so I'm very rested and refreshed. I woke up this morning and I was like, I'm ready to get at it. I'm ready to get at this crypto stuff and this passive income stuff. And I was inspired. And this is perfect timing because Robert is very knowledgeable. I was just talking to him about how there's a lot of stuff going on in crypto, and I always rely on Robert for all my XRP news and things like that. And it's just stuff that I don't personally have time to go look at. And so I rely heavily on people like Robert. And you're probably honestly one of the number one people I rely on for some of this info. And I just rely on you to kind of know what's going on and then share it with the rest of us. So I don't think we need to do huge introductions. Again, I've had you on my channel a whole bunch of times now, so great friend of the channel. But Robert, want to hear first off, how are you doing? How's life treating you? And then we'll kind of go from there.
Life's great. We have a lot of bad stuff happening in crypto in the US right now, but I can never be more bullish on the industry and where we're heading globally. Me personally, just sold my house in California, moving back to Hawaii. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, man, just living life, absorbing as much information as I can on a daily basis. And, you're a student first, and then, you try to teach people kind of what you learn once you understand it fully. So it's been a great ride. I think like the last 14 months, man, I like every single day, just crypto. I don't even think I've had a vacation. I took a vacation like 2 years ago, but other than that, this is all I do. So I'm happy to be here and happy to add as much value to the channel or to anybody that's listening as I can. So excited.
Awesome. Appreciate it very much. Dustin says, oh, it's actually to me, James, thanks for your hard work, but I'll add it on to you. Robert,
Thanks,
thank
Dustin.
you for your hard work. I didn't see he addressed me. I try not to bring up, comments that just compliment me, but hey, Dustin, I appreciate it very much, brother. So let's go ahead and start with, what are you excited about? That's kind of what, if we run out of time. And by the way, anybody in the audience, if you have questions, things you want to talk about, we can take it your guys' direction. Again, you are the bosses. We're just here. We're the servants here, just here to kind of serve you as best as we can. But while we're waiting for people to have questions, Robert, what are you excited about in the crypto space? I know XRP, all this. I'll let you talk for a little bit.
Cool, man. Well, I think what we should be paying most attention to right now is the US FedNow system. And I think a lot of people get the FedNow system confused with a CBDC. The FedNow system is not a CBDC. It's just it's a system in between banks to send payments, right? So in March, we had a big ISO migration, right? ISO 20022. And all that is just rich messaging data. If you look around the globe, there's all these different countries use different formats to send payments, right? And what ISO is to get everybody on the same language so payments can flow thoroughly through the system, right? And so when somebody says, hey, this XRP is ISO compliant, that's actually not true. What it is the company behind the token or the company that uses the token needs to be ISO compliant. And that's how that works, right? And that requires like KYC, AML, and all those types of things. So the number one token, like if I was talking to a friend like you or a family member and they asked me like, hey, if there was one crypto I should be researching or looking at, I would say go look at XRP. And the reason for that is because it was built right kind of a couple years after Bitcoin. Bitcoin was released and they're like, okay, proof of work probably is not going to work for international payments. What are we going to do? So they built a ledger system, and this actually went back to 2004. There was a guy named Ryan Fugger who had this idea of Ripple Pay, and then Ryan Fugger and Jed McCaleb and David Schwartz, they all got together and they kind of took Ryan's idea and built like this cryptocurrency ledger that we now call the XRP ledger, right? It used to be called OpenCoin, then it was called Ripple, and now it became XRP, right? Because they needed to make it decentralized away from Ripple. So I really get into that. And the reason being, James, is if you go look at all of the research done that, the connections that Ripple has made, not just with central banks, but actual payment systems. You really, you're here to invest in technology, right? And me and you don't give financial advice, but we look for what is going to be used on a global scale that really is going to encompass where all this value is going to flow in, right? What we need to understand as individuals is we're moving from a fiat broken system right now to a digital system, right? And all of that value that lives out in the world, real estate, gold, bonds, securities, derivatives, all of that is going to be tokenized and live on blockchains. And so you really need to understand is, where's that value going to live, right? And I put together this crazy video. It was like 45 minutes. I worked all week on this video last week, and it's going to be coming out probably in the next couple of days. But I lay out like the history from the beginning to kind of where we are now, CBDC projects in between, banks and everything like that. And I found some crazy information in my digging. And so like the SWIFT system moves about $400 billion a day through it. The Notcha system, so the US has a bunch of payment systems, right? They have the Notcha system, they have the FedNow, they have the FedWire system, they have the FedWire security system, and so on, right? All of that is being digitized with this new FedNow system, right? And so you want to look at, well, what technology is the FedNow system using? And they blatantly tell you they're going to be working with Volante and the VolPay system. And if you look up the VolPay system, it'll say that they're working with Ripple, they're working with Swift, Ripple, and like Visa and B2B and MasterCard, right? But if you're going to have instant settlement, Visa can't do that, MasterCard can't do that. And so they're going to probably use Ripple and ODL for that settlement, right? And so what you have now is you have all of these central banks in the world. You have Canada, you have the US, you have the UK, and Brazil. I do think Brazil's going to work with Ripple on their CBDC, Australia, and you have all of these different countries, Japan too, right? And so the real situation here is hooking the entire world up to a payment system where value can flow just like an email, right? Instantly. And that is really what we're talking about here, right? And when I personally invest in stuff, I want to make sure that I've done the research and I know that this technology is going to be used on a massive scale. And the hardest part that people can't understand is when they look at market caps, right? They look at a market cap like $20 billion, and then they try to do some math in their head, and they're like, oh my God, $5 trillion or $20 trillion, needs to buy into the market cap for even it to get up to $5 or $10. You're looking at that all wrong. You got to look at how much value is going to be moved on the network, right? And what the circulating supply is. And so through this research I did last week, Ripple has an escrow, right? They have the XRP escrow, and that has about 50 billion tokens in it. But since the lawsuit, Ripple has bought back $8.4 billion worth of XRP. And if you do the math, right, Ripple XRP was in between 30 and 40 cents. They bought back about 18 billion more XRP off the open market. And the reason they did that is because they can lease out the XRP, but they can also use ODL to move that value, right? So you're really looking at the circulating supply of XRP. Now it's kind of down to like 30%, right? Because Ripple does have a huge majority of it. But then you have exchanges. Then you have people like me and you that have a lot of XRP. So my goal now is trying to find out exactly how much it is. But can I share my screen actually on here? I want to show you something.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, while you're doing that, quick question that I had for you. I understood most of the words that you said, but can you explain ODL? I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. So on-demand liquidity is a product, right, that Ripple built out because banks are not going to hold crypto assets. Eventually they might get there, but certain crypto assets would need to be tiered. Like gold is a tier 1 asset, right? So banks can hold that. So I believe in the future, once we get a global regulation, certain crypto assets that are systemically important for the system are going to become tier 1 assets like gold, right? And so that is kind of where it's heading. But right now, banks are not holding XRP. And so if banks need to send a payment, and if it's like, let's say $1 billion, and they need to access this XRP, Now they can go to Ripple, use the ODL system, and let's say it's going from America to China, right? What happens is $1 billion goes into this big liquidity pool of XRP, and on the other end, it comes out in Chinese yuan or whatever the currency the person wants to receive on the end, right? So that's kind of how ODL works. Is that good?
Okay. Yep. No, that's super helpful. Continue on. Sorry to interrupt.
You're all good, brother. You're good. So let me just see if you can. I want to make sure that you can see this exact screen that I'm going to share. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. All right. Can you see this? Can you see this on my screen?
Yes.
Bank transaction volume.
Yep. Correct.
Okay, check this out, guys. Okay, so I researched. All right, so there's a list. I found a list of 139 banks that Ripple's partnered with. I was only able to dig up information on 49 of them, and between the 49 of them, give or take, they move about $159 trillion a year through these banks, right? But check this out. The FX market, right? This is where this is the foreign exchange market where if people need dollars or whatever, they can swap, right? They do $7.5 trillion a day. Right. And this is tied in with the Federal Reserve. So my thing is, like, if they're updating the FedNow system to this new ISO compliant instant settlement system, why wouldn't they move the FX market to the same system, right? Because not only are you transacting more value and more money, now you can do it instantly and with way lower fees, right? And then you have the derivatives market, which is $600 million to $1 quadrillion. Okay. And then I went through all of the national payment systems. So in the US, we have Nacha. Nacha does 190 billion a day. SEPA is in Europe, right? And they move about 78 billion euros a day through that system. Fedwire is a really good system. So this is what's being updated, right? Fedwire 2. So in 2022, Fedwire moved $4.2 trillion a day. Swift moves 400 billion a day. The Federal Reserve, they have another thing. They move 100 billion a day. The DTCC, which is the Depository Trust Clearing Company, they move $6 to $7 trillion a day in value. They move this a year, and that roughly comes out to about $6 trillion a day. Then you have the chip system. The chip system moves 1.8 trillion. This is Fedwire Securities, Fedwire S. They move 1.3 trillion. Crest is the UK's security clearing, right? Like, so this has Fedwire Securities. This is the same thing for Europe, right? Or for England, okay? And then Canada moves about 539 billion a day. So also I added all these up, right? This is 22.3 trillion a day. Okay. And then I added Nacha, Swift, SEPA, Federal Reserve, and Canada up, and that's another 1.5 trillion a day. So you have a total of $23.8 trillion a day, not counting any of these banks, and also not counting any other central banks that are rumored to be working with Ripple. Okay, so this is where the price of XRP is going to come from. It's not going to come from people, buying into the market cap. It's going to come from how much money is being moved in the system daily. And just these systems, this is $8.7 quadrillion annually, not including France, Bhutan, Palau. This is the Saudi Arabia Monetary Authority, MAS. I think MAS is Malaysia, but you get what I'm saying. Then you have Australia, you have Japan, you have Brazil, you have Saudi Arabia, you have so many other things that are going to be moving value, right? And that is really where the rubber meets the road. And then, so let me just show you this. So I ran some models, right? Check this out. So I said, if the XRPL was used to move $25 trillion a day and the circulating supply of XRP was only 10%, right? Because the reason I got to this number, I'm just kind of throwing out different things, right? I'm figuring Ripple controls 70%. We control, I'm trying to now add up how much is in people's wallets, but that's going to take a very long time. But let me just show you this. If 25 trillion only was used to move through the XRP ledger, and there was only 10 billion actually in circulating supply, you'd be looking at a price of XRP about this. Okay, but this is not including the derivatives market, right? So derivatives are futures contracts all over the world, and that value can be anywhere from 600 billion to $1 quadrillion. So the reason I think that a lot of the derivatives market will go onto the XRP ledger is because it's not only a bridge asset, it's also going to have a lot of liquidity going through it with all of these payments, right? So if you added just $100 trillion and you use the same information above here, you can get to a price of about here, right? So this whole video that I put together that's coming out soon is basically me going through all of this detailed information, showing you where I got all these numbers, how everything's kind of come through. And I mean, it can get to a silly price. And a lot of people, claim, XRP is going to go somewhere, this and that, but they never show evidence or kind of what it's going to look like, right? So I took it upon myself. I spent all the time I could. But the real question is, right, what happens when you digitize real estate value? What happens when the stocks and the bonds and the rest of the derivatives market comes on, right? Where's that value going to live? We know it's going to live on an ISO compliant blockchain. It needs to be private, which you can use R3 or a private ledger on the XRP ledger. There's just so many other things that kind of lead me to believe that this value eventually will end up either on the XRP ledger, and maybe some of it lives on like XLM and HBAR or whatever else. But I have a strong feeling, because it's a bridge asset and because they've worked with up to 50 central banks on all of this work, I do think Ripple is going to facilitate most of the world's value in trade, right? Because you can move $50 million in 3 to 5 seconds for 30 cents, right? Currently, we have the correspondent banking network, and that can take 5, 7, 10 days for a payment to get there. And you will lose 2 to 7% of that payment because all of the correspondent banks take a little bit of piece. So not only banks can now move money instantly, right? They can also save 60, 70, 80% on that. So my question is this: now that everybody's updated to this new system, when do they start using it, right? And that's kind of where I am right now as far as like the research putting it together. But I just thought that was kind of a different way of looking at market cap and how that goes. A lot of people don't understand, when you add $100 trillion of value onto a blockchain, that blockchain is now $100 trillion worth more. If you get what I'm saying, kind of, if I explain that correctly. But that was that I just did the whole week on that. I sent it to a couple other YouTubers. I was talking to Crypto Lulu the other day. We had a great conversation about XRP, and that was a lot of fun. But that is the reason why I talk about XRP so much, because there's so much there, right? There's also 1,700 contracts with NDAs attached to those contracts that we have no idea about the escrow and where that XRP is going to go. So my grand conspiracy theory is, how do you pay off $32 trillion of US debt, right? You can't print more money. Even if you reevaluated gold at 5 or 10x what you have now, the US still wouldn't have enough money, right? So is there a deal to be made for like 1 billion XRP that the US gets, and then the price skyrockets, and then they're able to facilitate paying off the debt and then restart the financial system? We are definitely headed that way though, right? And so I'm just thinking maybe that is a possibility, right? Because how do you pay off all this debt if you can't print more money because inflation? And I just think there's an answer here that maybe we just aren't thinking about. And I'm just trying to kind of get the ball rolling, and hopefully more people will start kind of digging into this, right? The more of us that can, understand stuff and search for things on the internet and try to work together to paint this picture, that's really what I'm kind of looking towards and looking forward to.
Okay. No, love it, man. Great information. And one thing I always appreciate talking to you is I always pick up little nuggets that make me want to go research things myself. Like, oh, he talked about this. And so I would encourage anybody in the audience, if any of this stuff interests you, it will benefit you to know about this going forward. And it will educate you on how money works, how money flows, and all those things. You might not be able to pick out, oh, this is how this benefits me in my investing journey. You might not be able to identify that right off the bat, but understanding how money works and flows has been super helpful for my investment journey and my personal financial journey. So encourage you in that. I was going to ask, what do you feel like? How do you feel like the banks think about Ripple? You know, because there's potential. They're taking a lot of their fees away and a lot of their revenue streams away and things like that. So how do you think that banks are approaching this or thinking through this, or what? Just what are your what's your take on that?
Well, there's two parts to that, right? Any international payments, usually like 60 to 70 payments, cross-border payments, you use three banks. It's HSBC, JP Morgan, and Citi. Those three banks are we call those incumbent banks, right? Those are the banks that have the most to lose, right? Banks are hurting right now, right? Last year I was saying we got a liquidity crisis coming. We got a liquidity crisis. They're going to be bank runs. I was talking about this 8-9 months ago. People called me crazy. And fast forward, we've already had 3, and there's going to be a lot more. Banks right now, because of the extreme high rate of the rate that went up. What happened was this: during COVID, right? A lot of stimulus was given all over the world to citizens because we were forced to stay home, right? What do people do with money? They don't keep it under their mattress. Well, some people do, but most people go put that in the bank. So the bank is sitting on billions and billions and billions of dollars deposits, and they're not supposed to hold so much money in reserve because of certain banking laws. So what do? They take the money and they invest your money into long-term securities, such as bonds and stocks and other things like that, right? The problem is they put like billions, like I can't remember the exact number. It was like either 29 or 80. I can't remember if it was exactly one, but they put in like billions and billions of dollars into 10-year bonds. And what happened is their rate on the bond is like 1.3, 1.5%. Right now, people can take their money out of their bank and go to a money market fund and get 4 or 5%, right? So that is why you're seeing a massive run on banks, because people are like, why am I leaving it in my savings account and getting 0.25 interest or 0.5 interest when I can go to a money market account and I don't have to worry about it? I'm getting 5%. And that's what's happening right now. And so you're seeing trillions of dollars flow out of regional banks. Most of it's going into bigger banks, but a lot of it's going into money market funds. And what happened right now is, because of those unrealized losses, banks are down. I've seen numbers like $620 billion, but I think the problem is really like 1 to 2 trillion. I think banks are $1 to $2 trillion upside down right now. Most banks are insolvent right now, and you don't hear this on the news, and they're not going to talk about it. But if you've seen like some of these previous videos I put out about the FDIC meetings where they're talking about bank runs and they knew this was coming and how do we control it, the current system is broken, right? We have so much debt right now that the interest on the debt is like $1 trillion a year, right? And our fiscal spending is kind of out of control in the US. So how much longer can you keep printing money without everything collapsing, right? So that's why they're getting CBDCs ready all over the world, because one day things are going to totally break, right? So the thing is, if you look at systemically important banks, Chase is the worst one. Chase has like 60 to 70 trillion dollars in derivatives. So if there was a black swan event that had to do something with the derivatives market, you could take down a lot of big banks, and that would just be catastrophic for the entire world. So I do think there's a big bank, like a switch now to a digital system. The fiat system's broken, right? You can see all over the world that banks are kind of collapsing. Credit Suisse just, collapsed. UBS had to kind of, they were forced to take them over. All these banks are hurting right now, right? And so I posed this question on my Twitter, right? I'm like, you are a president of a bank. You know that margins are low. You don't have a lot of capital, right, for people to just keep cashing and cashing and cashing out, right? So when do you make the switch, right? Correspondent banking, you have to have money all over the world for correspondent banking to work, right? Because if you're a bank in America, but you're settling transactions in China or the UK, you have to have bank accounts in those countries to settle that. And all that money is just sitting there, right? It's useless. So these new systems allow the banks to allow them to get rid of nostro accounts. Now they can use the capital and they can do same day transactions, right? So it really is a revolution of changing the way that money moves around the planet. And if you know this is happening, you need to research the technologies these banks are going to use. And I've looked at, I don't know, man, hundreds, maybe 1,000 PDFs with different banks, World Bank, you got IMF stuff, you have BIS stuff, you have all these different PDFs, right? And if you actually go through these PDFs, they tell you who they're interested in using for this. And it's usually XRP Ripple, and it's usually Stellar. Those are the two options, right? And so that's kind of where we are right now. So the thing is, when is that moment, right? When is that flip of the switch moment where these banks say, let's start using this new system? I think they haven't in the US yet because of the Ripple and the SEC case that's still going on. And I think they're waiting for the FedNow system to launch in, I think it's like June or July where it's going to officially launch. So between now and then, I mean, it's anyone's guess what's going to happen, but I do think Ripple comes out on the winning side of this regardless. And I think that's kind of like the moment, right? Because you already have Bank of America saying, we're going to be using this technology. We're just kind of waiting for this case to be over, right? So it's an interesting time, man. It really is.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that won me over on XRP, because I talk to projects every day who are saying, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And I'm like, no, the problem is getting people to use it, getting adoption. But then I looked up like the World Economic Forum and all these different organizations, and they all they have on their website, we're going to be using Ripple. We're going to be using Ripple. We're going to be using Stellar. And so that's what won me over was I'm like, okay, they're not just talking. I can see these companies and they've said they're going to use Ripple. So that's kind of what won me over on that.
Yeah, I mean the Bank of England put out like the proof of concept. They even said in the thing that they're like, hey, we're going to stop using Swift and we're going to start using Ripple, right? Ripple was on their faster payments task force. What's even funnier? Ripple was the only blockchain company that was on the U.S. faster payments task force. Okay, and they were the only one on the Notcha faster payments task force. So you really start to kind of just connect patterns here. And I'll tell you, what's even funnier? So Swift, right? Swift doesn't have an ability to do instant settlement, right? They have something called Swift GPI, but it has to do with messaging, payment messaging, but you can't attach the payment to it, right? So March 1st, Swift did a sandbox test with 12 banks, okay? 11 out of the 12 banks I connected back to Ripple. All right. And then actually on March 19th, if you go look at XRP metrics, you saw a huge flux in payment transactions in one day. It was like normally 200,000, 187,000, and then 1.2 million on March 19th. And what they're doing is they're testing the network, right? They're testing the payment flows and seeing how it's all going to work. But I do think once the FedNow system launches, right? And people get confused, right? People confuse it with the CBDC. What it is you have Bank A, you have Bank B, and you have the FedNow in the middle, right? And all you're trying to do is you're sending a payment from Bank A to Bank B. You just got to verify the payment here. So what happens is it goes to the FedNow system, verifies both actors, and the payment flows through it, right? And that's how that system's supposed to work. So my like when I think they're going to use XRP on the FX market, it's for a reason, right? Because all of those things are different currencies, right? And if you used something that wasn't a bridge asset, now you have to kind of like, okay, you can only do it in one currency, then you have to bridge over. It's just a lot more of a mess, right? And that's why having a bridge currency in the middle really works. And if you actually go back and look at all the BIS testing, right? You have Project Jasper, Project Ubin, Project Dunbar, Hamilton. There's so many BIS projects. And if you really dig into the PDFs, you start to understand what technology that they're using, what banks they're testing it with. And you can really make some good educated guesses and decisions on, hey, this is actually what they're going to use. And we don't know when it's going to happen, but it is going to happen, guys. Like correspondent banking it's dead, right? Like it's all fractionalized. Banks don't have money and they need to be able to access this nostro money. And so they can try to stay alive, right, man? That's really the concern right now for banks in America and over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And had a few people asking about your thoughts on the lawsuit. When do you think that's going to end? I know nobody knows the future. We've been talking about this for years now, but what do you think?
Well, everything's done, right? All we're waiting is for the judge's decision. And last time the judge basically went, sent something to the SEC saying, guys, you're kind of losing here. Maybe it's time to make a deal. And they have not, either come to the table. Some say the deal's already been made, but it's just not been announced yet. But it's hard to have a new FedNow payment system using instant settlement. The only way they're going to use instant settlement is if they have Ripple in that technology in working with FedNow, right? So it has to be done before that FedNow system launches. But it's really anyone's guess. It could come out tomorrow, or I do think it'll come out closer to when FedNow is coming out.
Okay, very good. We got a lot of questions from the audience, so we'll get through. Yeah, we'll get through these if we can. Let's see. Well, let's talk about this. Okay, thoughts on DAG right now. What are your thoughts on Constellation? I know there's been some delays and there's been some skepticism about, is the technology going to work the way that we think it's going to? And I know there's a lot of questions up in the air. I just wanted to get kind of your thoughts on it.
So yeah, I've had some concerns because mainnet 2.0 was supposed to launch last year. We're still waiting. I've talked to some CEOs of projects that are supposed to launch on DAG, and they don't even know when they're going to be able to do that yet, right? And I've seen something online saying May is the month, that's going to happen. But until these CEOs tell me, hey, we've got a date to launch, I'm going to be skeptical of it, right? It was really weird, man. You remember when we were at DAGCon together?
Yes.
And remember we were sitting in front of everybody, and Wyatt I always thought Wyatt looked unhappy, or he looked like he was upset about something. And I couldn't get that out of my mind. And I'm wondering if he's up there talking about this, but he knows there's some issues behind the scene. And I mean, I think the DAG team is great and I like what they're doing, but some more clarity, not only for the partners and the people that are trying to launch on DAG, they need some real answers on what's going on behind the scenes. And I hope they get it, man. I think those guys have a great idea. They've got some great partnerships lined up, but the partnerships are only lined up if the technology and everything is working. And obviously we're not behind the scenes. We're not a fly on the wall. But I think they have a great, solid team. Wyatt's a genius. But I just need to, personally, for me to get back into DAG, I need to see some launch dates and some real serious stuff. Like, hey, we everything's good. We're ready to go.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking for.
Nope, that makes a lot of sense. I think you're totally right. The technology, and I've seen this with a lot of tech companies in the past, where the two things can go wrong. Either you can have great technology that works perfectly, but you're not able to get anyone to use it. You're bad at the partnership side of things. Or the opposite, you're really great at the partnerships and you're able to get all these people excited to use it, but then you're not quite able to get the technology to the point it needs to be. So yeah, just hoping that's not the case with Constellation, that they're able to get those two things working together. But I was thinking about this. It's pretty rare for both those things to work out well in a project. Like, there's way more projects that fail than succeed. Yeah. So I was just thinking about how difficult it is to get working technology and people that want to use it all in the same thing. So, but yeah.
And you're absolutely right, James. And people into crypto, if you're new to crypto, understand this. You're investing into technology that is brand new. It hasn't been out there tested, right? If it's something brand new, then there's forks of whatever it was brand new, right? And people make forks of projects before they can even like say, hey, it's been live for a year, no problems, no issues, right? And we kind of get sucked in from like FOMO or promises. I would just be careful with new projects, right? Because regulation is coming, whether we like it or not. The current G20 president right now is India, and India has had a plan for global regulation for a long time. And I think they're meeting either this month or next month. They're meeting to hopefully get this global guidelines out to all of these countries, right? Because you can't have different laws in the US than the UK, because then money cannot flow across borders properly. So everybody has to have some, at least certain sets of rules that allow this to take place, right? And so India has launched their digital was it rupee, and they plan to have they plan to have 1 million people using it in the next couple months, and so they're really pushing that out, and they know how important it is. So I think they're a little bit of ahead of some other countries on their CBDC. And the CBDC is another question too, right? I see a lot of negative, oh, they're going to program our money, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And we need to look at this from both sides, guys, right? You're talking about governments giving you money, right? So let's say the government gives you $1,000 in stimulus, and you go down to a gun shop, you buy a gun, load it up, and you go shoot up a store. Now the government has just given you money to go kill somebody. So there has to be some programmability in that, so you can't spend it on drugs, or you can't spend it on a gun, or you can't spend it on certain things, right? Of course, they're going to spy on us. There's nothing that we can do about that. But I think programmability gets a bad word, right? And this isn't also a really good way to control the supply of money, right? Because look at the current situation we're in now, right? The Fed is trying to reduce the supply of US dollars in circulation. Well, if it's digital, they can burn and create whenever they want to, right? So I think it not only gives them more access or more control over what's happening in that time, in that moment. And so, I mean, I'm not for or against it, but I think we need to look at both sides here, right? And it's coming no matter what we do. We might as well make some money along the way, right? But yeah, there is certain people that, oh, this is going to be terrible, this is going to be terrible. But guys, it's coming. There's not much we can do about it.
I like that perspective on things, because I think sometimes if you talk about CBDCs, then people think you're approving of it, or they think that you're saying, "Oh, I'm so happy these are here. I think this will fix everything." And I'm not on that boat. I'm don't know that they're necessarily the best thing, but I like what you said, where the reality is they're coming. And so it's best to try to figure out how to navigate the fact that they're coming, and see how can you make money, how can you profit off the existing system. That doesn't mean that you are for them, or that you're going to be, so just take that into consideration, because there's a lot of people, especially in crypto, who are anti-CBDC, which is fine. But just know that they're probably coming. And so you want to be able to know what they are, how to use them, how to navigate them. So I appreciate you saying that. I think that's good.
And also too, James, to kind of like back up that point, all that CBDC money that's going to be created, where's that value going to live? It's going to live on the blockchain, right? Right. So if the US prints $5 trillion in CBDC money, where does that 5 trillion live on? Whatever blockchain or side chain they built on, right? So people just, you got to see kind of past the wall in front of you, right? You got to kind of come up and you got to look down, and you got to really understand that all of this money, everything of value in the world, is going to live on the blockchain. And when you own crypto, you own a part of that blockchain, right? And I'm buying crypto right now, not to just sell it at a high price. I'm buying crypto right now so I can use it to make money in the future, right? Because you can then, like, let's say tomorrow, and this is just for what shits and giggles. Let's say XRP went to $1,000 tomorrow. I'd have like, $200-300 million. What I could do with that then is loan out, collateral, and loan my XRP out for 4 or 5% a year and get paid. And I won't even have to sell a drop of XRP, and I can live off that money, right? So there's just different ways you can do this. It's not just buying and selling. There's different ways you're going to be able to become your own bank, right? For the first time in history, people are going to be able to, like, if your friend came up to you and said, "Oh man, my bank's giving me a high loan of 6% on my mortgage." Oh, hey, I'll give you the money to buy your house for 4%. You just got to sign out whatever you need. And if they don't make the payments, you get the house, right? Just like a bank would. So there's going to be other opportunities for you as individuals to join this new financial system. And that's what this whole thing's about, right? Is inclusion.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, and we could talk a lot. We could do a whole video probably on CBDC. History bear: government will not allow the common person to build wealth. They'll be programmed to expire to prevent passing anything along. I have a lot of thoughts on what CBDCs, what they might try to do with them, but I'm trying to keep a lot of my speculation just at bay until we here, because you can spend a lot of time worrying about them doing this or that, and then nothing ends up happening. So, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that or other things?
So check it out. So what's the best way to stimulate an economy?
Get more money flowing in it.
Okay, so if you're the U.S. and you're in a recession, and they said, "Hey, we need to get things. We need to get things. We need people spending money, right?" What are they going to do? They're going to give you universal basic income, and they're going to say you need to spend a certain amount of this money every month to stimulate the economy. That is a if you're the government, that is a genius way to get people spending money. Now, if the government doesn't like what you say or what you do, they can then come and probably freeze your money, and that's a whole different conversation. But I highly agree with the person's comment. They're going to be able to program it, and they're going to say we're not going to program it, but they have to program it, right? Right now, Americans get people that need assistance, right? With it's like food or shelter, they get debit cards, EBT, I think it's called. And those cards won't work in liquor stores or in some like gun stores and those types of places. It's the same situation, but just now in a digital wallet, right? So there is going to be programmability, but the best way to not be tied up in this universal basic income system is buy the right assets, hold the right assets, and you don't even have to worry about what anyone else does. You have your money in a cold storage wallet. Nobody can touch it. And you become your own bank. And I think that's where we're headed here, right? Is becoming your own bank.
Hope so. So, okay, we got a few. How many more of these do we want to go through? I don't want to keep you too long because
I got nothing to do, brother. If you gotta go, you gotta go. But I can talk crypto for days.
This is just my nap time, So I've just been I gotta make it through this. You can tell in my eyes, like this is when I normally take my nap. So
no worries, James. Whatever you want to do.
Do you have any thoughts on PulseChain? My thoughts, I'm not a big Richard Hart fan. Okay. Again, my ethics are a big part. My faith is a big part of me. And I believe pride comes before destruction. And so if I see prideful people, I'm kind of just like, ethically, I want to stay away from their stuff. And he did his video going through his closet with his watches. I have more money in here than your whole family tree is going to make. And I just was kind of, from that point, I was kind of out. But I don't know. What's your more like technical analysis of that?
You know what? I have ethics, I have morals, but part of my ethics and morals is to make money. So yes. Richard Hart put out HexChain. HexChain has not had any issues and it's made people millionaires, probably some billionaires, right? Those people love Richard Hart, and those people are going to invest a shit ton of money in PulseChain. Right. It's one thing to launch a new project and not have a community behind it, but you have an entire Hex community, right? So I'm going large into Hex when it launches. If it's pumped up, 10,000%, I'll probably wait. But I do think PulseChain is going to take off. I already sacrificed some stuff. I think it was like last year, a year before. I already sacrificed some money to be a part of that. But I do think it's going to just skyrocket because I mean, you just got to think about it, man. There's so many people that have made a lot of money on Hex, and all those people are bullish. You could, even if you told them Rich Hart killed somebody, they're still gonna go into it, right? So I'm bullish. I'm bullish on PulseChain, and I think if you can get in early, I think you could return some money. It's not investment advice, but that's what I'm going to be doing. I have money specifically set aside for PulseChain.
Okay, very good. And by the way, I love that we kind of have different opinions on that. And that's great. By the way, audience, you want different opinions. You want different information coming from different places. Then what I always say is you take that information, you put it into the stew. That is your decision-making faculties. And you put all that information around and then you decide, okay, what do I think? And I love that. Me and Robert don't see completely eye to eye on everything, but we never hold grudges about it or anything. It's just difference of opinions, but we both have the same goal. We want to help our audiences navigate this space. So
that's the number one goal, right, James?
Yeah, that's right. Briefly, what do you guys think of Vortices United? I don't know a ton about them, but we're seeing a lot of these like traders that pop up and they don't show any of their trades. They don't show anything that they're actually doing. They're giving crazy returns that I've never seen traders actually make. So and they're, very robust affiliate structures and multi-level marketing structures with bonuses and things like that. So I would just assume most of those things. I'm kind of at a state right now where Ponzi until proven otherwise.
Yep.
And so, if you want to mess around with it, just be cautious and just the same thing. Only risk what you can afford to lose. Get your initial out quickly. It could collapse at any moment. But to me, I haven't seen anything about Vortic that makes it seem any different than the other 20,000 of these types of projects that we've seen. So that's my take.
And I don't know anything about it, but understand, right? That's probably a new idea being tested, right? We don't know in the long run if that idea is going to work out. And usually when things are really too good to be true, they are too good to be true. And I've really stopped investing in most DeFi projects, right? The last DeFi project I invested in it's called Collective Finance. And what they are doing is they are digitizing gold, diamonds, and silver, right? And that's where we're headed already, right? Digitizing. I mean, you look at the BRICS countries, right? Digitizing oil, digitizing natural gas, digitizing gold. That's how the trade's going to work, right? And so I'm looking at projects like that have a real world use case that I know is going to be the norm here in the future. And those are the projects I'm really looking at, right? In the long run. But yeah, if you see something that's promising you 20, 30,000%, guys, I've lost so much money on promises, over promises, and under delivers. And be careful with affiliate links too, right? Like somebody will come. I've gotten messages saying, "Hey man, we'll offer you 15% of whatever your community invests." The first time somebody says that, block, right? Because no good project is going to offer you a percentage back on what other people invest, right? That's a big red flag for me. So I'm just very cautious. And I do think regulation is around the corner, right? 2024, you have the MiCA bill in Europe coming. UK is working on their own regulation. US is going to have to get off their ass, and you do see on the Republican side, people like Tom Emmer, there's a couple other Republicans that are really working hard to try to get some really smart legislation going for our country. But we are very behind right now. When you look at places like Dubai and the UAE, like UAE, man, they have the UAE is probably going to be the crypto capital of the world. I really think so. UK was trying to do that, but the problem with the UK is that crypto companies are having a really hard time opening bank accounts, right? But we go to the UAE, they've got $2, $3, $4, $5 billion to invest in new crypto startups, zero taxes, they speak English. And so I do think a lot of the crypto world's going to move that way, and you're going to see a huge shift in power. And we're not even talking about what's going on with the BRICS countries, man, because that's a whole nother conversation, right? We could talk about that too, but I don't know if you have the time before your nap. But there's just so much going on in the world, man. And it really, like, crypto's a global thing now, right? And if you look at something just like XRP, every other country in the world calls XRP a currency. The SEC is the only one that says it's a security. And so I personally thought that was kind of like an inside job to try to get some of the escrow for the US or whatever. But long story short, we just, crypto is here to stay, right? They're already digitizing bonds, right? They're already digitizing derivatives. They're already digitizing stocks. All this value is going to flow like an avalanche or a tsunami into the market. And that's where you're going to see explosive growth. That is really where the rubber hits the road. And that's really where millionaires are going to be made.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree. Crypto Lex says, I miss node season though. Fun times. And yeah, we all do.
Yeah, I love that. I was retired for like 14 months with Strong Block, and then I was like, oh, it died. Fuck. All right, I guess I'm not retired anymore. I got to get back
out of retirement. Now we have to get back to work. Mr. Moody says it's good to see you guys have learned. And you know what? Because I am cranky and have not taken my nap yet, I'm going to put you on timeout for that comment. That's too snarky for the James Pelton. Put user in timeout for 5 minutes. 5 minute timeout.
You know what's hard, guys, is James is one of the best people I know in the space, right? And you work in a capacity where you're talking with a lot of new builders, right? And like I said, this technology is just now being invented. It's just being tested, and 9 out of 10 of those projects are probably going to fail because of a team issue or a contract issue. There's so many things that can come up, and it's really, a lot of people point the fingers at us, but we're not the developers, right? We think it's a great idea. It has, it has a good team behind it. It has good legit, everything seems good, but we have no control what happens behind the scenes, and bad actors are everywhere. So, we do get the blunt of the blame for a lot of this stuff. And, I don't want to say it's unfair, but we have no control over what other people do. We are trying to bring new ideas, new information to you, and you make the decision in the end, right? And I think we all need to look in the mirror and have accountability. I know when I fuck up, I make a video and say, guys, I messed up on this, this happened. I apologize. I'm just a person, right? And so I think people just need to really understand is, if you look at any VC, big VC, if 10 or 20% of their investments make it, I mean, this, James, it'll pay for the other 80% that went bad, right? If you have 2 or 3 really good things that set off, that brings back all the money maybe you invested in some of these other projects. So, I mean, I shouldn't be talking to you about that. You've sold businesses and done businesses. I mean, you're kind of a business genius, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's end with this question. This has been a great discussion. I think I should have you back monthly. I'll have to come up with a clever name for it, like Doyle's. I'll come up with a good name, okay? After my nap. Maybe I'll have a dream about it. We'll get a good name. But we'll have you back monthly just for kind of like news about crypto, because I don't do a great job of keeping my audience abreast about I just wanted to use that word in a sentence, but I don't keep my audience abreast about all the things that are going on in crypto, and so love having you on. Let's close with this question, and then I also want you to talk a little bit about Cryptonairz if people want more information. But what coins are you bagging for the next bull run other than XRP? That's obviously going to be one of them. What other coins are you looking to accumulate for the bull run?
So I'm going to separate this in tier 1 projects, and I'm going to separate this in kind of DeFi, a couple of projects that I've invested in DeFi. Okay. When we're talking about tier A projects, excuse me. We know the XRP, XLM, XDC is as important as XRP is. XDC is going after the TradeFi market. Singapore, UK, that is going to be a huge deal. And I think the XDC is only like 3 or 4 cents right now, right? And I was buying it 2 years ago. And so XDC is going to be a huge deal. Imagine XDC with an Ethereum market cap, guys. That's like a 2000x. So, there is a lot of room for XDC to grow, and I think that's a great project. You also have Casper Labs, incredible. Casper is in my top 5. When you can make mutable smart contracts where you can go in and upgrade the smart contracts as you go. Think about like the top 2,000 businesses in the world that are building applications for their customers. All the time you have to upgrade to new versions. Things happen or new services come out. And to be able to not only upgrade that smart contract to fit these new needs, instead of creating and starting something all over. So Casper Labs is a huge deal. I highly recommend that. Of course, there's HBAR, you got Algorand, there's BioFi. I think BioFi is super underrated. I mean, I was buying up the market cap of 500K, man, right before it pumped. Like I called Brian. I was like, Brian, I'm going to dump some money in. I think I'm just going to buy it off the open market right here. So I bought off the open market, and then it pumped 140%. And so I think that project has a lot of room for growth. So that's probably one of them. There's like IOTA, there's Algorand. I think even Cardano, Polygon, those will do pretty good too. But when we're talking about like global crazy use case, Hedera, XLM, XRP, XTC, those really are the ones I think are going to really kind of shine. When it's talking about like DeFi projects, there's a DeFi project called Canafox, which I thought was pretty cool. They're selling NFTs to grow marijuana plants, and then they harvest a couple times a year, and the people that pay didn't get that. There's another project called SkyFi that actually uses drones to clean and wash buildings. I thought that was a pretty cool idea. Cool. Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. And then there's one more I had in my back of my brain. Oh yeah, and collective finance. Those are the three that I've kind of put some money into recently. There's probably a couple more, but like I really am putting like 90% of my money in these just couple assets that I know are just gonna go bananas, man. Because like, I got tired of the Ponzi scheme, the strong, it's the DEX season, it's the node season, it's NFT season. I just got tired of it, man. I just really want to be in a position. A0 it has a layer 1 and a layer 0 and a layer 1, kind of like Constellation, but it has some other features. I think A0 is a great pick. What was it? Tau God, I can't remember.
The AI one.
Yeah, Tau is going to be
Tau.
AI marketplace. I think that's going to be a great pick. AGIX is a good pick. Anything kind of to do with AI is going to be pretty hot. But yeah, man, those are really kind of. I went from having like 200 assets down to like 15, right? Because it was just too hard to manage. But yeah, I think if you really start to research those projects, you will understand why they're so important for this new ecosystem and this new digital economy. And those are the ones I think are going to have the most success in the future, right?
Yep. And don't forget just good old Bitcoin too, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, there's always that. I think as crypto itself, gets more adoption and more usage, that I think that always will help Bitcoin, who's kind of like the spokesperson for crypto in a lot of ways. So, and maybe someday we'll see kind of a decoupling. That would be, and maybe Ripple's the one to, maybe XRP is the one to do that.
Yeah. So when I talk to a new person about Bitcoin, there's a lot of things that are great with Bitcoin because it's a decentralized network. You don't need a bank in the intermediary. But like, what's Bitcoin at right now? 28 grand or 27 grand?
Mm-hmm.
How much other stuff could you buy for 27 grand?
Oh,
I mean, you could buy like 60,000 XRP for 27 grand. And so I'm like, are you going to make more money with the one Bitcoin, or are you going to make more money with the 50,000 XRP? So that's the kind of question that you need to have with your financial advisor or your God or yourself. I do think Bitcoin is a great way to start, but no banks, no institutions, no one can use Bitcoin to transfer money because you don't know where it's coming from. There's no KYC, there's no AML. So Bitcoin will have value for as long as people believe in it and as long as governments don't attack it. And that's the only thing that I worry about in the future.
Yep, I think that's totally fair. So, all right, well, let's close up there. Tycho says we do have an AMA. We have an AMA with SkyFi tomorrow. So good timing on that.
So SkyFi is from the so a lot of this, some of the Canafox team that I really, really like. These are really good guys. Are on the SkyFi project. I just thought it was really cool. I mean, I had to research like drones washing buildings and all this other, because I had to do an AMA with them. And so I kind of got an education on drones. And there's actually like, it's like, God, was it 5 million meters of office space in France? They have a license to do this in France. Like they're like one of the only ones that have a license to do this. And since there's a lot of historical buildings, and then you can clean a skyscraper, right? If you have a drone, it runs for 8 hours, you replace the battery, and then you go again, right? And then it takes away, the people that have to, go up on these big ladders or these big scaffoldings, right? And so not only can you do more work with the drones, you don't have any safety issues with the people that are doing it too, right? So I do think there's a big use case there. And you always want to ask, what is the use case? Who's going to use this? And what is the team behind it? Before you invest in anything, you really want to understand, what is this solving? And if it solves something that you think is going to be big, well, then you might have something there.
Okay, very cool. Well, hey, closing, do you want to tell us a little bit, if people want more information about things like this, they want to hear your deep dives they want to hear even longer than, the 30 minutes we talked about XRP today. They want 2 hours of XRP, 5 hours of XRP. How can people get in touch with you? Tell us a little about your community, and then we'll close with that.
I appreciate that, James. So yeah, we built Cryptonairz about 2 years ago. We were a very DeFi centric community until like January 2022, when I saw the market crash, and then I kind of restructured how and what we spoke about. And so for the entire year of 2022, I only educated people on crypto that has like a big use case that is going to be, used. And so I do 2 Sensei chats a week, They're on Tuesdays and Fridays. They go about an hour and a half to 2 hours, but I go through 60, 70, 80 pieces of different crypto information from that week. And as well as I bring in some of my own research to follow. And so, you know, a lot of people find extreme value on that, right? Because a lot of people don't have time like me and you do to research all this stuff, right? So what's better? You know, it's you kind of taking the time away from your family and your friends and your hobbies, or just jump in a Sensei chat, catch up for an hour and a half, you know, while you're at the gym, and then you know everything that's going on in crypto that week, right? So there is a lot of value there. We also have a discount code right now, Spring40. It's 40% off, Cryptonairz.com. You know, come join the community and start engaging. And we had this one new guy that joined like a couple weeks ago. He said in the first, like, what did he say? In the first 7 days, he learned more in our community than in the last 9 months doing this himself. So not only will we take your knowledge and jack it up to the next level, there's an also really great community there of support, right? And there's a lot of scammers and all these bad things out in the place. And to be in a place where you can ask a question and the answer is not coming from somebody that's trying to scam you, that you can actually get real help. You know, that's what we're trying to do there. And we have an NFT team. If you like stocks, we have people that do stock stuff. There's just so much information there. You probably couldn't go through it all in, you know, one day. But yeah, if you're interested, please, we'd love to have you in our community. And if not, if you need some help ever, reach out to me on Twitter. Even if you're not a member, you have a question, I will do my God's honest truth to try to help you out and help you try to understand whatever I can. Okay.
Very cool. Love
Thanks
it, man. Appreciate you very much. Audience, you guys are awesome. Appreciate you guys very much. Please hit like on the way out. Check out Cryptonairz. Reach out to Robert if you need anything. Go follow him on Twitter. He's always tweeting good stuff. Appreciate that quite a bit. I'm going to go take my nap now. And I recommend to you guys, if you don't take naps, you're missing a 15-minute nap every day. Changes my life. Like it's gives me energy to hang out with the kids and stuff like that. So I'm going to go do that. So hit like on the way out. Robert, always a pleasure. Thank you for hopping on, sharing your knowledge. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me, James. And guys, thank you for listening. And I wish you all a great 2013. Good luck. All right.
2023. But yeah. It's been a long decade.
I don't even know what year it is, man. Fuck. I need a vacation. All right.
You need a vacation.
I do. I'll see you guys.